Throughout history, kings and queens were thought to be chosen by God, destined to rule over nations with power beyond the reach of ordinary people. Yet behind the glittering crowns and golden thrones lurked fragile, vulnerable bodies ravaged by disease. Hidden within royal palaces, illnesses shaped decisions, toppled empires, and altered the course of human history. Today, we uncover the royal diseases that not only tormented monarchs, but changed the destiny of entire nations. Our story begins in Britain with one of the most infamous royal illnesses, the madness of King George III. For years, George III ruled as a devoted monarch. But in the late 18th century, his behavior began to unravel. He spoke for hours without stopping, wrote long letters that made little sense, and at times, even talked to trees as if they were people. Modern historians believe George suffered from porphyria, a rare genetic disorder that causes hallucinations, paranoia, and intense abdominal pain. During his episodes, courtiers were forced to restrain him, and rumors spread that the king had gone insane. But this illness didn't just affect the man, it shaped history. George's incapacity came at a time of rising tensions with the American colonies. While his ministers struggled to manage both the king's health and the empire, the colonies declared independence. Some argue his instability weakened Britain's response and indirectly contributed to the birth of the United States. The madness of one king may have helped create a nation. Next, we turn to a disease that became known as the royal disease itself, hemophilia. Hemophilia is a genetic disorder that prevents blood from clotting properly, meaning even the smallest cut could lead to deadly bleeding. This disease was passed down through the family of Queen Victoria in the 19th century. Her descendants carried the gene into nearly every major royal house of Europe, from Britain to Spain to Germany, and most fatefully, to Russia. Victoria's great-grandson, the young Russian Tsarevich Alexei, suffered from hemophilia. His constant illness brought despair to his mother, Tsarina Alexandra, who turned to the mystic Rasputin for help. Rasputin's supposed ability to ease the boy's suffering gave him immense influence over the royal family. This influence sowed distrust among the Russian people, and when revolution broke out, the royal family's closeness to Rasputin became one of the many reasons for their downfall. Thus, a single genetic mutation within a queen contributed to the collapse of the Russian Empire. Few monarchs illustrate the dark consequences of royal inbreeding better than Charles II of Spain. Born in 1661, Charles was the last Habsburg king of Spain, and his family's obsession with keeping bloodlines pure through centuries of intermarriage left him catastrophically unhealthy. Charles suffered from severe physical deformities, an enlarged head, a weak body, and a jaw so misshapen he could barely chew food. He didn't learn to walk until age 4 and remained infertile his entire life. His subjects whispered he was bewitched, cursed by demons. But in truth, he was a victim of genetics. When Charles died childless in 1700, Spain plunged into the War of Spanish Succession, a conflict that reshaped Europe's balance of power for generations. The collapse of a dynasty, triggered by the frailty of one diseased king. Not all royal diseases came from birth. Some were earned in ways whispered behind closed doors. One of the most infamous? Syphilis. This sexually transmitted infection swept across Europe in the 15th and 16th centuries, and it did not spare royalty. Kings like Henry VIII of England and Francis I of France are suspected to have suffered from it. Syphilis was devastating, not just physically, but politically. It causes sores, rashes, and in its advanced stages, madness and death. Rulers stricken with it often hid their condition, fearing scandal. Henry VIII, known for his 6 wives and desperate quest for a male heir, may have struggled with syphilis or another venereal disease, contributing to his repeated miscarriages with wives and the instability of the Tudor dynasty. In these courts of silk and splendor, disease festered in secret, leaving behind political chaos. But disease was not always seen as a weakness. In some cases, it was tied to divine power. For centuries, English and French monarchs claimed the ability to cure scrofula, a form of tuberculosis that causes swelling in the neck, simply by touching the afflicted. This royal touch became a powerful symbol of legitimacy. Thousands would gather, desperate for healing from their king or queen. In truth, no miracle occurred. But the belief reinforced the idea that monarchs were chosen by God, an illusion that sustained dynasties for centuries. Ironically, while monarchs claimed power over disease, they themselves often died young from hidden ailments. The royal touch healed no one, yet it preserved faith in the crown. Royal diseases were not always physical. Sometimes they were cruel illusions. Queen Mary I of England, remembered as Bloody Mary, desperately sought to secure the Tudor line with a child. Twice, she announced her pregnancies, and twice her belly swelled. But both times, there was no child. Historians now believe she suffered from ovarian cysts or perhaps uterine cancer, conditions that mimic pregnancy. Her failure to produce an heir fueled instability in England and paved the way for her half-sister Elizabeth I to claim the throne, altering the future of England forever. A queen's womb, empty of life, shaped the destiny of a nation. From madness and infertility to hidden genetic curses, disease stalked royal families like a shadow across the centuries. But these are only the beginning. In the next chapter, we'll uncover even more shocking tales, from emperors crippled by gout to monarchs whose illnesses sparked wars and rebellions. The crown may have glittered with jewels, but beneath it, the flesh was weak. As we move deeper into the lives of afflicted monarchs, we find one ruler whose disease symbolized the indulgence of empire. Emperor Charles V of the Holy Roman Empire. Charles controlled vast territories, stretching from Spain to the Americas. Yet, despite his power, he was crippled by gout, a painful disease caused by uric acid buildup in the joints. Known as the disease of kings because it was linked to rich diets of meat and wine, gout left Charles swollen, bedridden, and unable to walk without help. His suffering grew so severe that he eventually abdicated his throne in 1556, retreating to a monastery where he died in agony. The abdication of such a vast emperor wasn't just a personal choice. It shifted the course of European politics. His resignation split the Habsburg Empire into Spanish and Austrian branches, altering the map of Europe for centuries. Not all diseases left visible scars. Some struck silently within the mind. In the mid-15th century, England's King Henry VI fell into bouts of catatonic stupor. At times, he would sit motionless, unable to speak, unresponsive even to those closest to him. Modern scholars suggest Henry may have suffered from catatonic schizophrenia or severe bipolar disorder. His episodes left the throne effectively vacant, creating a power vacuum. This weakness was one of the sparks that ignited the Wars of the Roses, a brutal conflict between rival houses that plunged England into decades of bloodshed. A king's hidden mental illness unleashed a storm of civil war. While some monarchs suffered silently, others endured their illnesses in ways that shocked their entire courts. The French Sun King, Louis XIV, reigned in unparalleled splendor. Yet behind the golden halls of Versailles, he endured excruciating medical torment. Louis suffered from a severe anal fistula, a painful infection near the colon. In 1686, surgeons attempted to operate, using crude instruments and no anesthesia. The king's cries of agony echoed through the palace as the doctors cut into him. Though he survived, the procedure became a strange symbol of national pride. Nobles began wearing fashionable ribbons shaped like surgical tools in honor of the king's endurance. One monarch's suffering had become a grotesque fashion trend. Mental health has long haunted monarchs, though often hidden in silence. Prussian King Frederick the Great was celebrated as a brilliant military strategist and enlightened ruler. Yet his personal writings revealed deep struggles with depression. Frederick described feeling trapped, lonely, and weary of life. The immense pressure of rule weighed heavily on him, and the loss of close friends plunged him into despair. Though he masked his pain with military triumphs, his mental battles remind us that even the strongest monarchs were human, vulnerable to the same invisible illnesses that afflict millions today. Disease didn't only shape rulers, it reshaped dynasties. In 1861, Prince Albert, beloved husband of Queen Victoria, fell ill with what historians now believe was typhoid fever. Within weeks, he was dead at just 42 years old. Victoria was devastated. She wore black mourning clothes for the rest of her life, refusing to rejoin public celebrations. Her deep seclusion weakened the monarchy's public image, creating growing criticism in Britain. One man's death left an empire mourning and shifted the way subjects saw their queen, not as a divine ruler, but as a grieving widow. Not every royal illness led to weakness. Sometimes it shaped power in unexpected ways. Claudius, the Roman emperor who ruled from AD 41 to 54, was born with physical disabilities. He limped, stuttered, and drooled, leading his family to dismiss him as a fool. Yet when conspirators murdered his nephew Caligula, it was Claudius, overlooked and underestimated, who was declared emperor. His supposed weakness may have saved his life, as assassins ignored him, thinking him harmless. Despite his ailments, Claudius proved an able ruler, expanding the Roman Empire into Britain. His story shows how illness and disability, far from destroying rulers, could sometimes conceal unexpected strength. If you found this glimpse into the hidden history of royal diseases fascinating, don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more dark tales of the past, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a story. History is filled with secrets, and together, we'll continue to uncover them.